The Sega Dreamcast, possibly my favorite console of all time. After a series of fumbles with the Sega CD, 32X, and Saturn, all the pieces came together for Sega to put out a console that was way ahead of its time, and even afforded quirks, unique gameplay mechanics, and gambles resembling those Nintendo would successfully pull off years later. There's so many reasons why the Dreamcast is so beloved, and I truly believe the most enjoyable way to play these wonderful games is on original hardware. I'll share how to experience the Dreamcast the best way possible in modern times, and some alternatives if you just want to experience these classic games that aren't available anywhere else. Hey! I'm the guy that puts the tie in technology. I love to talk about retro gaming, the gaming industry, modding, emulation, all sorts of stuff. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I have a lot of videos coming up about my love for Sega's final home console. Links to everything will be available in the description below, so let's go. The Sega Dreamcast released in North America on September 9th, 1999, or 9/9/99. And I kind of loved the marketing campaign, the It's Thinking campaign. It was actually the first console I bought for myself, and it had this huge jump in graphics from the PS1 and 64 era. And while it's considered kind of part of the 6th generation of home consoles, which include the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, it's more in line with the 5th generation, as a lot of games from the PS1 and N64 got ported to the Dreamcast, and they were just better on the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast had the best launch lineup of games for a North American console ever. I will fight you if you think that that is not true. It released for $199, and it actually was the best launch of any home console in history at that point. Unfortunately, it was discontinued just 18 months after the release in North America. One of the reasons why I think that it's great to play the Dreamcast on original hardware is because it was so quirky. It had the unique controller, it had the VMU, which is the memory card, the visual memory unit, which stored your game saves. And not only that, the VMU could do so many other things. When you were playing games, for example, on NFL 2K, you could pick your plays from the VMU so that you could disguise it from the player that you're playing sitting next to, because couch multiplayer games were still very much a thing in those times. But the ability to use that second screen is very reminiscent of what Nintendo was doing with the Wii U, Virtua Tennis. You could play entirely from the VMU. It was such a cool concept, and not only that, but you could take the VMU and use it for other purposes. You could remove it from the console. You could play mini games. You could, for example, in Sonic Adventure, you could put a Chow in your VMU and then level it up while you're away from your console. It had so many possibilities that a lot of developers didn't really utilize, and that's something that happens a lot with consoles. I could go all in about how awesome the VMU was, and it's not perfect. It only had 8 megabytes of memory, so you couldn't store very much on it. The batteries die really fast. Trust me, I bought bulk CR 2032 watch batteries, and it didn't have the support that it needed to really be a great feature, except for some of the first party games. And Skies of Arcadia, that had a cool mini game that you would take with you on the VMU. But other than that, the Dreamcast itself looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. I'm shocked at how small it is. One thing to note is that piracy was a big issue with the Dreamcast. A lot of people blame the piracy as the main issue. It definitely wasn't, because they didn't sell enough consoles. The timing of the announcement and the release of the PS2 was definitely the hardest blow to the Dreamcast. But one thing with the rampant piracy is that images of the games have been available online for decades now. You should know that there's 2 different formats of the games. There's the GDI, which is the original disc image. There's the GD-ROM image, which was a CD that could hold 1 gigabyte of data versus the 700 megabytes that a CD-ROM could hold. And those files are uncompressed. They are always the same size. They always fill the full 1 gigabyte of data, regardless of how small the game itself is. And then there's the CDI image. Usually they're the same thing. They're just compressed down to the size of the game, enough to fit onto a CD-ROM. A lot of times music or cinematics were highly compressed or removed altogether, and so you get some missing aspects of some of those bigger games. If you're really tight on space, you can usually use CDIs. If you want the real authentic experience, I would use GDIs. Also, we should note, I'm not telling you to go download these games. If you have the originals, that's awesome. That's what you should do. A lot of these games aren't available to buy, though. Trust me, I bought Sonic Adventure like 7 times. I bought Shenmue. I bought everything else that I can think of that I am able to buy. I bought a used Dreamcast online. It was in great condition. And what I did was I did a GDEMU mod. And what that does is it replaces the optical GD-ROM drive in the console, and it replaces it with a chip that emulates that drive that has an SD card slot in it. So you can load all your CDI or GDI ROMs onto the SD card. And then there's a little menu that shows you all your games, and you can just boot them as normal. And the games themselves aren't emulated. They're running on the hardware. The good thing with this is that those optical drives in the Dreamcast are highly prone to fail. And they are loud as all hell. They were so loud. Good news is it's a very, very, very simple mod. It's literally 7 screws, and they're all Phillips head. I don't know that I've ever done a mod on a console that was as easy as this. One thing to note is that you do need a Series 1 Dreamcast. The 2, if you look on the bottom of the Dreamcast, if it has a 2 on it, those have been modified to not be able to use this. They also don't read burned discs. Now, this isn't a tutorial. There's some fantastic tutorials on how to install a GD-ROM into your Dreamcast. I'm just going to do a quick overview to show you just how simple it is. But I recommend either a written tutorial or some of the videos that are available. There's so many great tutorials. The one I use, I'll link right here. But to install this, all you do is you unscrew the 3 visible screws underneath the Dreamcast, take off the modem, unscrew the 4th one, take off the lid, and then there's 3 screws holding on the optical drive. Unscrew those, hold on to them. You pull off the optical drive because it's modular. Then you take the bracket that comes with the 3D printed mounting adapter, screw that in using the 3 screws, the one long one that's included, to mount it to the base of the Dreamcast. Make sure it's seated into the connector. Screw the other 2 into the bracket, and then screw the mounting adapter, and then run the extension for the SD card reader, and then you put it all back together. That's literally it. After that, all you have to do is you take your SD card, you have to format it as FAT32. On Mac, that can be done with the disk utility. On PC, you'll have to use an app called GUI format. You download the GD menu zip file, drop those onto the root, and then put all your GDI or CDI images on in a folder sequentially numbered. Boot up your Dreamcast, and you got all your games. Now, I have to say there is a downside to all of this, is that the parts for these, specifically that GDEMU, I actually bought mine in 2021 for $40, and then the 3D printed adapter I got for like 16 or 17. Right now they're about $100 to $140 for the GDEMU, which is significantly more. Hopefully they'll come back down. I know there's a chip shortage still going on. The last thing I want to talk about is the alternatives. If you're not going to use original hardware, you're not going to use your awesome Dreamcast controllers, and you're not going to use your VMUs, and you want to use your PC or your Steam Deck or something, you can emulate the Dreamcast. There's Rycast, there's Flycast, and it works, and you'll get the experience of it. But the thing with the Dreamcast is sitting down with some of your friends. It was made to be like kind of a party machine. It was a local multiplayer experience. The Dreamcast used a lot of the same architecture as the Naomi arcade machines. That's why there's so many arcade ports, a lot of multiplayer arcade ports. Some games have some shader issues, some texture issues, and you have to tinker. And if that's your thing, you can go for it. I was trying to play NFL 2K1 and it was just not rendering right, and I was messing around with it, and I got it kind of close. You can do some cool upscaling stuff and get some really high resolution, and it runs great, especially if you have a gaming PC. But I feel like I was losing some of that authenticity doing it that way. I have a video coming out, so be sure to subscribe if you are interested in more Dreamcast stuff. It's what games you need to play on Dreamcast. I go through all the best games on Dreamcast, and there's a bunch that you cannot play anywhere else right now. And I have a few surprises that I have in store. I also have some stuff planned for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That is probably my most anticipated game that I've been looking forward to for years and years and years. And be sure to follow the Pixel Perfect podcast, because we talk a lot about Nintendo. We talk a lot about the gaming industry. We talk about the games that we're playing. It's a good time. Did you ever own a Sega Dreamcast? What were some of the games that you loved on the Dreamcast that you want to go back and play? Leave it in the comments. Follow me on social media. We got Twitter, we got Instagram. I'm all over. So come say hi. I'm active everywhere. I will respond to you. If you have a cool profile, I'll follow you back. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Check. 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 Ah. Hey. 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 Oh. Check. Check.